Hi, this is Shirla, and welcome to Let's Talk Church and Other Things. Today we are here with G from the Classicman Barbershop, and he's going to share his story on how he went from the streets to success. Welcome.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. It's a nice warm evening.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and share your story with us. So we're going to get right into it because I'm sure the listeners want to know how you went from the streets to where you are today.
Well, I was definitely a not an easy child for my parents, we'll say. I got into my fair share of trouble. Safe to say by 18, I ended up in one place, which was prison. I did 4 years. I felt like I wasted a lot of my youth. And the key thing was, though, I'll take that everything does happen for a reason, and prison gave me the opportunity to get my barber's license. And that also led to, the beginning of where I'm able to stand at now. From making mistakes to being able to take a bad situation and still try to make a positive out of it, I think was very important for me personally. When I came home, I worked for somebody else. I finished my apprenticeship. I was able to then go to a better shop, we'll say, that wasn't so much heavy foot traffic and other distractions. I went to a shop, and then from there, instead of choosing to not be a barber that bounced around from shop to shop, I decided to open up my own place. Unfortunately, in every story, there's ups and downs.
True.
When I opened my first place, I was there for roughly 2 years and ran into some problems with the landlord. Had to relocate and do it fast because I couldn't be closed for too long. Fortunately, I was blessed to find a place in Patuxent Village in Cranston, and I've been there for roughly 7 years now. And I put in a lot of work, sweat, time, sacrifices. It definitely does not happen overnight. I mean, I got out of prison in 2015. I didn't open my own place till like 3 years afterwards, maybe 4. And ever since then, I've just been focused on trying to do the right thing as opposed to taking steps backwards. I would say would be the most valuable lesson there. But it is possible to change your life if you want to. You got to want it more than anybody else. Doesn't matter if your mom tells you, your girlfriend, your partner, your significant other, your kids. You got to want to make the change yourself. Otherwise, you'll be stagnant and running in circles.
That's key. That's very important what you just said because, people can always dictate to you what they think you should do with your life, but it's something that you definitely want to have to do for yourself. But I have a question for you. What made you decide that you wanted to have your own business versus working under someone else?
I would say probably wanting to have something of your own. I know for most people that come from where we come from, we really start off with nothing. We're already in debt by the time we could even get our first credit card.
True.
Some of us have bad credit from our childhood that we don't even know how it got there. And unfortunately, the credit bureaus, they give you one option. You got to call the police. And a lot of the times it was our parents or a family member who had the cable bill in your name. So we already start with a deficit. But I think it's important to want something for yourself. You got to have something to call your own, whether it be your own family, your own home, your own business, your own car. And you don't have to shoot for the stars off the rip. You can start with wanting to own a bicycle and you work your way there and you keep taking steps forward to progress. But I think definitely wanting to have something of my own something that I could say that I worked for and not just work for somebody else.
I have a question. Now, you said it didn't happen overnight, and I'm pretty sure you had to struggle to build this barbershop up. Was there ever temptation to go back to the streets? Because
Oh, the temptation, I would say, probably never actually goes away. I think that the streets will always be there. It doesn't matter who's on that corner. At the end of the day, people of even that. I mean, we're all out here fighting and arguing with each other over something that's not even anybody's.
it must be hard to make, like, just for
Fast
example-
money,
Yeah,
easy money,
And
and
then-
then you have to put in. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Even till this day, right now, I came here straight from work like this young lady, and I put in 10, 12 hours a day at my barbershop. I mean, Saturdays I get there at 6 a.m.
that's what's up.
because I know that nobody else is gonna show up to work for you.
Right.
You know, like I said, you have to want it, and I feel like I want to be successful. I don't want to be back in prison. I know the disappointment it brought to my family, my mother, the hurt.
Yeah.
Even if you have kids, you can't even see your kids grow up. Fortunately for me, I don't have kids, but
And you don't get that
I understand
time back.
that you never get that time back.
No.
Never. That clock never rewinds.
Exactly.
So you just got to keep. You like I said, it's definitely not overnight. It's definitely not easy. Nothing in life is ever just given to you.
Facts.
So you got to work hard for everything you want, no matter what it is. Even if you want to open a cookie store or a restaurant, car dealership, you still got to make those sacrifices to, whether it is to save up the money to make the moves or put in work learning the business before you never want to do nothing blindly. And I felt like that was also a key part of me working at other barbershops, learning the actual business side of it.
Yeah.
Because you never want to jump into business or make any investment, whether it be with your time or your money, blindly. You know, you always want to have a game plan. You want to have some type of ideas written down, goals, initiatives. You got to have paperwork. You know, a lot of us don't even know how to register LLC.
Facts.
You know, it sounds easy, but you don't know that you got to go to 3 state offices and get paperwork signed, and you got to get a tax ID first, and you got to make sure that your name is not being used by another business or another type of establishment that may have your kind of ideas already.
Now, did you know that, or did someone school you to it?
Fortunately for me, I was dating someone at the time that knew a lot more about business on that end of the paperwork side,
Yeah.
who was able to. I feel it was a blessing to me to have somebody be able to help me. Not all of us have that help,
Yep.
which is why now when people ask questions, I try to help them and point them at least in the right direction. You know, I can tell you where the state office's building is, but you got to want to go down there and fill out that paperwork.
That's good, because some people would hate and be like, I don't want him to open up a shop. He might
Correct.
take some of my business. Like,
I will say I do protect my business.
Yeah.
So I've learned in the barbershop business, there's one on every corner.
Mm-hmm.
People will jump ship. People will open up across the street.
Yeah.
Some people will even take some of your staff. So I have like non-competes. I have paperwork. I actually have an employee guidebook that I hand to employees.
How many barbers you have there?
I have one right now. It's a small shop. It's only 3 chairs. I obviously work the other.
But
What's
in
the
a
address again?
prominent area.
It's in Patuxent Village. It's 2216 Broad Street, Cranston, Rhode Island,
Okay.
right on the water.
All right. Nice location.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful place. That neighborhood has been more than welcoming.
Okay. And how long you been in business now?
I've been there for roughly 7 years.
And how long before you was like, yeah, I made the right choice? 'Cause I know it had to be a time, but like, is this really worth it? Like,
I would say when I was able to truly be able to help my parents out
okay.
with the benefits of what the barbershop brought to me. Because my parents were there for me through all the stressful days, the long nights. So I feel like I can never make that up for them, but I can definitely try to show them that I've changed and that I can help them now so that they can have a better life based off the blessings that I've been blessed with, which is also why I do a lot of community events also, because I feel like some of us, we have, even if it's the tiniest bit of success, you want to like just hoard it because you feel like you put in all that work and nobody gave you nothing for it. But I feel like you got to spread the knowledge and the blessings to other people. So like I do a homeless drive. I do a backpack giveaway.
Okay.
This past Sunday I was at an event for the kids that they did at Pleasant Valley View with my friend Kenny, and we did haircuts for the kids. And they had bouncy houses. They had the grill going for the kids. They let them swim in the pool at the school.
Now, did you learn to cut in jail?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I knew I had to do something with this time besides sit here and potentially pick up trash on the highway on these hot summer days. That wasn't for me.
Was there anything else you ever wanted to do before you started cutting?
I would say I probably had no direction, to be honest. And I think a lot of people think they know what they want, but they really don't.
So jail kind of helped you, just gave you some time
to focus. You got to stop, think a minute, write things down.
Yeah.
Writing things down, it's like you said, you got to speak it into existence earlier before we were speaking earlier. You got to manifest these things because they're not going to just happen being thoughts in your brain. You got to put it in footwork. You got to put it into action. As we said, doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Doesn't. So I have a question for you. What advice would you give to someone who, maybe took the same path you did, had to go do a little bit of time, came from making that fast money. Now they have to go out here and make the legal money, and it's not the same. It could take you 2 months to make.
Well, you could have made in a day sometimes.
Exactly. So what advice would you give to someone? Because I know it has to be hard to come from, making maybe a couple of G's a day to maybe making a couple of G's a month.
And it is tough, bills, kids, family. I would say you definitely have to be patient, have a lot of patience, and be willing to make sacrifices. I tell myself this: I could eat ramen right now and eat steak for the rest of my life, or I could have steak right now and worry about how I'm going to eat for the rest of my life. So I try to implement that daily to myself. I'd rather make the sacrifices now for when I'm older, I can truly enjoy life and not have to worry about how I'm going to eat or how I'm going to pay my bills. I've definitely branched off into other investments. Like I've learned to trade stocks. I've had a cafe at one point with a business partner. So I'm just trying to, she was my ex-girlfriend. So we both benefited. We both learned a lot about business from each other, and it's good to be able to learn from others. You got to be able to take constructive criticism because sometimes you may think you know what you're doing, but you have to, somebody's been there before.
Right.
Somebody made that mistake you're about to make, and they're trying to help you avoid losing time, money, and effort into making bad decisions when you can make better ones by, it all goes back kind of to like when we was kids. Your parents used to tell you, don't do that. It's going to lead to something else. Yep. And before you know it, you made the same mistake that they try to teach you not to do. They tell you, don't play with fire. You're going to get burned. What do? You touch the hot stove, you get burned.
Right.
So, I definitely think you have to learn to take constructive criticism. Michelle definitely has seen me make mistakes in life with her own eyes.
Yeah, we were just in New York. That's about all.
Yeah, so.
Well, no one's perfect.
And that's the key thing. You also have to kind of be humble with yourself that nobody is perfect. You can't set expectations that are unrealistic. That's why a lot of patience is needed. Because, like I said, nothing happens overnight for anybody. Unless you win the lottery. That can happen overnight. Bro.
Yeah, that could happen.
Right.
Overnight.
And let me just say this. So speaking, and I'm not going into details about the incident in New York, but what I do have to say is what went down at that point, I could have said to you, you know what? I don't want to see you around my son anymore. We don't want you around. But I always saw the potential in G. I always saw the potential in him. I'm surprised he didn't get into the music industry. I really am. Because he knew how to talk to people, he knew what to say, and he was very attentive, always paid attention to what was going on. And that's what I always liked about him. So I knew that he was going to be successful somehow. So it's not by coincidence that we're sitting here having this conversation with you, talking about the success that the path to success, because you say you're not successful yet. But I tell you, you manifest that. You are successful.
Absolutely.
You're just waiting to reap the benefits of that.
I'm trying. And like I said, I'm still being patient. I would love to definitely have more investments, more growth. I definitely don't want to be stagnant. And I also definitely don't want to cut hair till I'm 90 and I look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm not trying to be that guy. But I did choose a career that I also know realistically there is no 401k, there's no pension, there's no union, there's no PTO, there's no sick days. I'm in a situation where being a business owner, you have to plan for the future.
You got to be there and grind.
And I think a lot of people forget that part. We forget that we all do get old one day, and you won't be able to work sometime. And you need to plan for those days as early as possible. And I think that they should teach kids that in school, like how to plan for the future. I know a lot of people say that now, like there should be more financial classes, literacy for the kids.
Right.
Because a lot of them don't know. I mean, most of us go get a Macy's credit card at 18 because they'll give it to pretty much anybody.
Yep.
And you go over there and you ball out, you buy some clothes that 10 years from now mean absolutely nothing to you. And your credit is shot up because you forgot you had to make those payments.
And Macy's is the worst card to get. High finance charge.
Take it from us.
Learning those things.
Yeah.
Paying attention to what your interest rate's going to be on this credit card.
Facts.
A lot of us don't know that. You're like, oh, they're going to give me $1,000, $10,000. Sure, yeah, but they're going to charge you 75 cents on the dollar, my friend. I don't know if you're aware of that.
People
That
don't
means
realize,
you borrowed 10,000. They want a lot more back.
They don't realize, and then the bill comes, it says pay $25.
Yeah.
And 20 of it went to interest.
Yeah, and 5 came off the principal.
Exactly.
And you'll be paying that 10,000 for the next 30 years.
Yeah. So what other ventures would you like to do? Because you said you didn't want to cut hair forever. So,
like I said, right now I got the barbershop. I could continuously try to learn this stock trading stuff. And I want to get into real estate. You got to own stuff. You got to, Monopoly, they teach you that as a kid.
Yeah.
But it's really it's a life lesson right there.
Yeah.
You got to build. You never stop building in there. You start with a piece of cardboard. You put a house on it. You put 3 houses on it.
Yep.
And then you put the hotel, right?
Yep. And someone lands on it, they got to pay you.
And they got to pay you, right? I mean, we look
That's
at
real life.
Exactly. I mean, everybody needs a place to live, right?
It's a game, but it's
Or a
real
place
life.
to put their business at. Yeah. So, definitely I want to continue to grow. Where it may be, I may not know today, but I definitely will continue to learn, ask questions. I see other businessmen. I pick their brains.
Yeah.
I've been a person who's always thought maybe more of a hard worker, so don't give me the fish. I want you to teach me how to fish so I can go do this myself. You know what I'm saying? And maybe do it better, or maybe learn from them. Like I said before, the mistakes that you made, you might help me get there a little bit faster without the hurdles, because you can coach me through these things as I'm learning.
Yeah.
So how was your transition from the streets to okay, I got to walk away from my boys, my crew? How did they look at you once you started bettering yourself? And did you lose a lot of friends because of it?
I'm sure I may have lost some friends, or maybe even lost. I wouldn't even say lost friends. I think you start to disconnect from certain people. And it's never personal. It's no hard feelings. I feel like you have to genuinely change the people around you. You know, you can't. I don't want to sound cliche, but everybody wants to get out the hood, but nobody actually leaves. You know, you still want to hang on the corner with your friends.
Right.
And that is fun sometimes. Don't get me wrong. You get to laugh, share some stories, catch up with people you may not have seen in a few years. But there's some of those people are still doing the same thing they were doing 10, 15,
20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Well, I
So-
feel like, oh, I'm sorry.
It's definitely hard to disconnect because you, of course, these are your people, your friends. You may have some memories with them. Some of them are your family. But you definitely have to, like I said before, you got to want to change. You got to want that growth for yourself. You hang around 10 broke people, who's going to be the number 11?
You.
You know what I'm saying?
And I feel like if they act different or funny towards you, then that wasn't really your friend. Because if you're trying to better yourself,
You should want to see me win.
exactly, no one wants to be locked up in a 5x7 like an animal. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely not.
If that don't change you, then there's something wrong with you. Because that's,
And I think that was the biggest epiphany because I always maybe had, we'll say, control issues with other people telling me what to do. And prison will definitely break that all down.
absolutely.
You're told when to make your bed, when to get up, when you can eat, when you can even use the bathroom sometimes,
When the shower,
when to shower, when you can even see your family,
Yeah.
when you can even call them.
they control everything.
And that right there, I don't know about anybody else, but that definitely made me never want to go back.
The dude might be this big.
Correct. Exactly. You're absolutely right. You know, or younger than you.
You'd be like, I want to smash this dude. Right
Like
now.
young man, you're talking to a grown man.
Yeah.
Like, but and seeing people come in and out of there.
Yeah, it's like a revolving door. Like,
When I guess maybe because I didn't do like a bunch of small stretches, and I did one big one for my first one, and I got to see people that went home and came back.
before you got out.
They're like, "Oh, you came back too?" No, I'm still here. This is your third time visiting me. You know, and I didn't want to be part of that revolving door. You know, so it took a long time. Unfortunately for me, the day I was able to reopen my shop after COVID was the day that I finished all my papers with probation, with having to see any judges,
That's
checking in
awesome.
with anything.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I feel like even COVID, although it was a very rough position that it put me in with the business having to close down,
It's a
for
blessing
X
in
amount of time.
disguise.
it also was a blessing because I finished something that I had on my back for 15 years. And to be able to say that I'm not on papers
That
anymore.
was your probation, 15
Yeah,
years?
it was 50. It was a 15-year sentence with 4 years to serve.
Okay.
So after 15 years,
That's a
of
long stretch.
correct, and probation comes with bills nowadays. You got to pay to be on probation.
Yeah.
So
They get you coming and going.
you got to pay for all your court dates. You got to pay the lawyer. You know, all that adds up, and it definitely felt like a blessing. Like even through tough times, there's always either a lesson or a blessing that you're gonna learn.
Exactly. So, what advice would you give for someone who feels like they just cannot get out of that mentality of, they just don't see success for themselves. They just don't see themselves doing better. Because that's probably why, ACI is a revolving door for some of these young men and women.
I feel because the streets are always there and people will always choose the easy way out. But unfortunately, nothing is easy in life. If it was easy, everybody would go to college and put in those 4 years of sacrifice. If it was easy, every parent would be in their child's life. Some parents aren't. If it was easy, we'd all be millionaires and everybody would own a house and drive a fancy car and dress in the finest linens. But it's not easy, and everybody has to make sacrifices, put in time, and you got to work hard. And tough times don't last forever. Tough people do. And I don't mean like a tough guy. I mean like just tough as in like, you can make it out of this situation. You might have been in a similar situation in the past. And even if it's a new, worse situation for you, I mean, think about even me. I never in my life would have thought I would have had to close my business for something that was out of my power. And then when I reopened, they gave us like 8 pages of rules that we had to follow. And who would have thought that we would be in that situation, yet I still was blessed enough to have a rainy day fund where I could cover my costs, my rent for my business during COVID. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, there were definitely some, Gina, we need to open this place because money's running low, you know, and I got to get back to work.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you know, we most of us try to survive the best we could during those hard times. But here we are today, you know. I'm blessed enough to have stayed open. I know a lot of businesses did close for whatever reason it may have been. So I feel like I'm very fortunate. But the work never stops. Like I said, I mean, I've been open for so long now, and I'm still working 10, 12-hour days. I still wake up at 4 a.m. on Saturday to be at work by 6.
Wow.
It's gonna pay off.
My Friday nights are no celebrating. You know, there's no party.
Don't never come visit me.
Exactly. He knows. I don't go out. I don't go out because I work so hard that
But you went out on his birthday.
because it was his birthday, of course. I got to show my brother love. But, you know, and even having good people like that, like I said, changing your circle. My man been working hard at this
And you've
for
been there.
25 years that I've known this guy almost.
You've been there.
You know, from when we used to have to carry crates. People didn't see that sacrifice he made, though. They didn't see us 7 deep in a 4-seater with records and speakers trying to carry all this stuff to a 3rd floor. They didn't see that sacrifice. They see it now. They may see him on a video on the radio station, and they'd be like, oh, that's a cool thing to do. But they didn't see all the sacrifices he made. The sleep he lost being up till partying till 2, 3 in the morning doing his job as a DJ to being at work at 8 a.m. the next day.
Right.
They don't see that sacrifice.
They don't.
They just see the glitz and glamour or maybe he drives a nice car, but they didn't see that this guy had to put in 65 hours, 70 hours at work that week for X amount of years to get to that position.
Right.
If you want to be successful, you got to put in overtime. You got to work hard. And that's why I said I'm still working. I'm no better than nobody. At any day in my life would I ever think that. That's why I try to, I don't want to say make anybody feel lesser than, but I definitely try to be more like inspiring to the younger generation that like somebody cares, you know, going back to the community events, because if a haircut and this backpack can help your family and help you not make the choices that some of us made as young men and young ladies, that little thing, if I can save one kid, I feel like I've started something.
And a kid is more likely to listen to you because you've been on this side of the fence.
Correct.
Now you're on this side.
My mom used to have to walk 2 miles to get me to daycare in the snow.
They'd be like, yo, this dude was on this side. He came home, and so I could do this too. You know what I mean? That's not the way to go. You know what I mean?
When my mom's family first came here, we lived 10 deep in a 2-bedroom apartment. You want to talk about personal space? There was none. You know? Having to share a bed with my uncles. People don't see that, though. You know, they don't know that side. Everybody just assumes that, like, oh, he, you know, whatever. You know, even nowadays, some people may see, and it happens often, you know, they may see the car I drive. Like I said, I'm no better than nobody. But people assume that you're doing something else. Yeah. They don't know that, you know, and then when you have a conversation with people and they're like, oh, what do you do? Like, oh, you know, I got a business. I do this, that, and the other. And they're like, oh, wow, that's the last thing I thought would have been your answer.
You know why? Because
based on appearance.
They're looking at your past.
Correct.
And they're
judging
there.
you.
Yep.
Correct. And people will always judge you, no matter if
He
you're
must be
doing.
back at his life. He must be doing his old thing again.
People will always judge you, whether you're doing good
Or
or bad. Somebody's always going to have something to say. You have to learn to ignore the noise, stay focused on where your goals are, keep the vision aligned. You know, they put these blinders on these horses in these races for a reason.
Yeah,
They got one goal. You know what I'm saying? They got to get to the end. And I feel like that's what a lot of us, it's easy to get sidetracked. Like I said, some of your friends are still in the streets. They'd be like, "Oh, you want to come over here? We can come hang out. We can go party and do all this reckless stuff." But at the end of the day, that friend ain't going to pay your bills.
Nah.
You know, you still got to get up in the
They
morning.
might not even put nothing on your books.
They don't. 9 out of 10 times they don't. Some of them might not even write you a letter for free. Well, 32 cents for a stamp. I think it's probably more than that now, but
It is.
it's like 55 cents for a stamp. But you got to want to learn to make those changes for yourself. I feel like
Exactly.
that's the first step to any type of change you want in your life, is you have to learn to want it more than everybody else.
It's gonna be tough.
It's going to be tough.
You're gonna fall a couple times, but you got to get up. And 'cause you have a great story, and I hate to say it, jail saved your life probably.
It probably did, to be
Because,
honest.
I grew up in South Providence. I seen some dudes that was in that life, and it usually gets you in two places: dead or jail. Some people are lucky to go to jail and have a story like you got. You know what I mean? You had time to sit back and think what you want to do. You became a barber, and you came home, and look at you now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You got to have your epiphany, man. You know, some people like being part of that revolving door.
Yeah. I hate to say jail saved your life, but you know sometimes.
No,
you just,
you're right. You're right. Like I said, every whether it be a lesson or a blessing, you
Yeah.
got to learn from it.
Yeah.
You know, every bad situation has a positive.
You turned it into a positive. Some people don't. Like you said, you was
I
there
refused to sit there for 4 years and do nothing with myself. You know, so I had a. I mean, they took a lot of those educational programs out of the prison system in Rhode Island, so it's they don't have any of those college courses you could take or get a degree from while you're there.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just barbering now.
Yeah.
So I figured if that's the only option, I got to use it to my advantage.
They want to give her that law library. Got to read them appeals.
Correct. They won't even let you read that. You got to ask permission to go to the law library.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, you can't even have too many books in your cell block because they'll
Guys
take
would-
you
guys
only
would
get
get-
so many books.
Guys were getting smart and say, "Oh, I got a loophole here. Like, I'm gonna get this overturned."
Wow. Well, we thank you for sharing your story with us. It was very enlightening, and I hope that when people hear this and hear your story, that it will encourage someone and let them really see that, you know what, if he did it, maybe I can do it too.
Everybody can do it. You just got to keep working hard.
Keep working hard. And that goes for all of us, whether we have a story like yours or just a normal one like mine. You still have to work hard. Every day is a
Correct.
grind.
I'm sure in the corporate ladder, I mean, sometimes you got to be the janitor. I mean, for my boy, we was the guys carrying the records, you know?
So, yeah, you all from the real team franchise.
Correct.
All these newbies, yeah, they have no idea. If you didn't carry a crate,
Now this guy pulls out a backpack and he's good to go. He's got 3 million songs in there. Before we used to have to carry this room
times have changed.
in a trunk or in a minivan and figure it out how we get it on this boat because we got to go to this island and DJ.
That's when he was DJ Pooh.
Going to Martha's Vineyard and figuring it out.
Yeah, figuring it out. But look where you are now.
It's a great story.
Look where you are now. So where can the people find you?
I am at the Classicman Barbershop, 2216 Broad Street, Cranston, Rhode Island. Servicing all types of hair from young men to a baldy if you need it. You know? And you can find me on Instagram at the Classicman RI.
Walk-ins or appointments only.
I do appointments only for the customer's convenience.
Okay.
Because time is of the essence. We know parents have to go home, make dinner, pick up the kids from school, get to work sometimes. Sometimes guys sneak in on their lunch break.
Okay.
So I do appointment only for your convenience.
All right.
You know?
And that's a busy area, so trying to park
I don't think
in
nowadays
the summertime.
anybody has 2-3 hours to come just sit around at the barbershop
Yeah.
and not be serviced at the end of the day. You know, you got things to do. You might have to go to the grocery store, doctor's appointment, whatever the case may be.
I gotta take my wife to dinner.
Correct. And that's why you're getting a haircut, because
That's
you want to look
right.
sharp for dinner,
That's
right?
right.
And
That's
you don't want to
right.
be late for that either,
Absolutely not.
because the wife doesn't want to wait for us.
Nothing.
So I do by appointments only. I try to be as professional as can be.
Okay. So once again, we want to say thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us. You can catch him at the Classicman Barbershop on Broad Street in
Thank-
Cranston, Rhode Island.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to even be here. As long as I've known you, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, but I always knew you had it in you.
Thank you. I those words mean so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And they're, truth. It's all truth.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Corey, you have anything else to say before we wrap this up?
Nah, it was just a pleasure meeting you, G. I'm gonna have to come down there and get this beard tightened up. You know what I
Come
mean?
on down. We'll get you looking sharp, ready for
Yeah.
dinner.
All right.
You know,
I go to dinner right there at Boston.
Basta, right across the street.
Yeah, Pocket
Convenient.
Citizens. All around.
Yeah, got the right idea.
I know where you're at.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Church and Other Things. See you next time.